Hello and welcome. My name is Alex Pessagno. I'm the Trade and Investment Commissioner for Latin America. And welcome to this post-COVID-19 challenges, trends, and opportunity in Latin America. I'll be doing a short introduction on, like a general introduction on the region. And then eventually Andres Gebauer, who is my BDM here for the region, will be going into more details in each country and explaining more about each country and market. So please, microphones should be muted during the session. The session will be recorded. And if you have any questions, please type the questions in the Q&A box in the presentation. We'll answer at the end of the presentation as many as we can. The other ones will be distributed later on in a PDF together with the recording for the webinar. So let me start a little bit with, and here I'm going to turn this off for a second. We're going to stop the video. But let me start. So I was saying that we've been here in market since 2011. We are a group of staff of 5 people here in market. We have one BDM who works specifically for education, who will be joining me in the presentation. His name is Andres Gebauer. So we cover every country in Latin America, and in the last 2 years we've been working as well in Mexico. And we work in different areas like assisting market entry into the region. We keep a very good and strong relationship with regional organizations at the government level as well, and at the industry, just saying universities, special associations, scholarship bodies, etc. So we have worked in the past in all visits, specifically with tailor-made itineraries for market visits when universities or educational institutions come to the region. We have done, we do specific market research on specific markets or specific sectors. And we regularly, when we visit these markets, we travel a lot to the different markets in Latin America. We conduct agent training. We do a lot of agent training, emphasizing on the the benefits of Queensland and studying in Queensland. And when we can, we add alumni events as well for all Queensland universities in different cities, alumni that have attended Queensland institutions. So in that sense, we also do a lot of inbound and outbound train missions, study tours. We have received Study Queensland, of course, Study Brisbane, Gold Coast, and others here in the region. And next, please. So let me tell you a little bit more about Latin America. Latin America, it's a large region. It's composed of different countries, about more than 12, but it's very diverse. People think the common language is Spanish, but the cultures are different, and the business, the way of conducting and doing business is different, and it has a lot to do with the origins of the immigration that came in 1800s to America has shaped those different cultures. Now, in the language Spanish, except Brazil, that of course they speak Portuguese. But one very common thing that the region has is being resilient. So many countries in the region have lived through political and economic crisis and survived and grew. We've seen military coups, we've seen economic downturns, and now we're suffering this pandemic. But one thing I'm convinced, and that it will be that this will pass and the markets will recover. probably it will be into the 2021, as we have become from spectators of the pandemic in other parts of the world to being in the middle of it, and is creating a lot of disruptions and hitting economically very hard these markets. Now, and we'll go into more detail later on, but some of the things important for Latin America is this need of building relationships, the face-to-face interaction. That's part of the culture, very important when you do business, when you come to the region. And one trip is not enough. You need to come several times. You need to build those relationships. You need to create that special bond with the bodies you're working with the agents you're working in, etc. Now we are, as a region, the largest supplier of students to Australia after Asia. Andres will go into more detail in by country. How are those numbers? The region is very well connected with social media. We have in Brazil, for example, one of the biggest YouTubers groups in the region, as well as Colombia, very well connected with social media. High number of students are paying for education, and that's something that is fairly common in the region as well. So they're not surprised to have to pay for education. And the majority of the enrollments, and this is something to have into consideration and very important, comes from local agents, education agents. And going back to that relationship and the need to provide training to these agents, the need to provide marketing materials to this training, to these agents is key to have a good, good way to capture students. Next, please. So this one is an update on the number of cases that we have in COVID cases that we have in Latin America at the moment. And as you can see, the picture is not very pretty. We have Chile and Peru and Brazil, and the green color, those are the worst hit markets that we have now. Chile is reaching almost 300,000 new cases of COVID-19, and Brazil 1.4 million. Peru is a little bit higher than Chile as well. And what is happening here is countries have adopted different approaches to fight the pandemic, from very strict quarantines like Argentina to more relaxed like Brazil. Chile was a mix, and that is now is becoming more serious lockdown after the numbers started to spike 2 weeks ago. However, we've seen a little bit of decline in Chile. In the last 3-4 days, we've seen a decline on the number of new cases and positivity on testing. So that's very encouraging. And Uruguay has been granted access, the only country in Latin America has been granted access to the European Union. The European Union will be opening the borders to Uruguay. So this is just to give you an overview of what the situation is, and this is from today. So next, please. And this shows you a little bit of the impact that it's going to have this year, 2020, in the GDP on these countries in Latin America. Like I said, countries like Argentina, they adopted this very strict closure of business, and they were already struggling with the economy. So this has been a double hit on the economy. Peru as well, very strict. Mexico, Chile is that 4.4 It's debatable. Some people are saying up to 6 or 7% decline. But if you can go to the next slide, please. In the unemployment as well has been hit really badly. Chile just today released the numbers, 11.2% unemployment, highest in the last 10 years. Brazil has lost 5 million jobs between February and April, and the unemployment climbed to 12%. And same with Peru, and if we continue on the list, there will be every other countries having more or less a similar situation. Now, most of the region, like I said, is under quarantine. Borders are closed. There are no flights between these countries. Many of the countries don't even have international flights. Chile still has a few to the US, but that's it, no more than that. Trade shows, of course, have been postponed, and probably until next year. There are some planned for the end of this year, but I doubt they will take place. And something that is important to mention in the case of Chile and some other markets as well, like Ecuador, is that before COVID-19, we were hit in late October by a social crisis. And that social crisis started in October, but moved all the way to 2020, right when COVID-19 then it faded out. But there is something that could come back after COVID-19. It's something to keep in mind. Now, these numbers are terrible, but considering think about next year, 2021. The 2021 numbers are a lot more encouraging. We see an average for the region of 3 to 4%. So it's going to be a strong rebound as soon as the COVID-19 crisis is over and the markets start to open and things go back to this new normal. We'll see a rebound and probably it will start happening in early 2021. Next, please. So what are some of the Latin American education trends that we see? So middle class has grown about 50% in the past decade in the region. Now, that middle class was the one spending in education and other things. Now will be impacted by that's the section of the population that will be impacted by this pandemic and the loss of jobs that we're starting to see now, but it's going to carry on through probably most of this year. In many Latin Americans, this higher education is subsidized or free of charge. Argentina is a good example. Now, governments at the same time, because of the pandemic, are diverting funds to contain unemployment, to help small businesses, and as a result, some agencies, some scholarship agencies, for example, are reducing funding for study abroad programs. We saw this last month with Becas Chile, which is a scholarship body here in Chile that actually has postponed or suspended this program until further notice. And probably we'll see the same in other markets in the coming months. Now, at the same time, we have an increase in quality of local education. Technical and university levels are becoming much, much better. An engineer trained in the region competes with any engineer from abroad. We've seen an increase in offering and competition from other markets as well. We see Canada, US, New Zealand, UK, very aggressive in market with offering different online courses, taking advantage of the same time zone, and some double degree programs and things like that. Very, very aggressively marketing here in the past year to 2 years. Teachers also are becoming better trained, locally trained, technicians as well. English continues to be an important part of the education, as you know, these markets open to other markets and international markets and international businesses. The English is required in these jobs. If you want to get a better paid job, a higher paid job, you have to know English. Increasing foreign ties as well. We see a lot of research going on in the region. Brazil is taking the lead. Chile is up there as well, tying with other universities around the world. Next, please. So some of the things we've been doing with research actually is with CNPq is the research body for Brazil. We signed an MOU with them. We took a mission where we did a couple of days where our researchers from Queensland interacted with researchers from Brazil. As this MOU we have with CNPq in Brazil, we have signed other ones like with the Colombia government, Peru, the state of Minas Gerais in Brazil, and the region of Antofagasta. All these MOUs include a section on education exchange, student exchange, English courses, technical training, etc. Next. This is a picture, couldn't get a better one, but this is a picture of a trip that Andres did with the scholarship body from Colombia called Futuro. And this is an example, and I'll go into the opportunities later on exploring not just the large traditional cities like Bogota, Medellin, or Cali, but going into smaller towns within Colombia. And the same applies to other markets. I think it's an opportunity here for Queensland education institutions to go to places where they're untapped markets. Next, please. So going back to future opportunities, I see a shortage on technicians. As soon as, I mean, there was a shortage already before COVID. So when this post-COVID comes, this requirement will be strong. Will be a shortage of technicians. Depending on the different markets, it will be different. But in general, I can see a shortage of skilled workers. Professional development will continue to be of interest. We have seen a lot of interest in study abroad, even pre-COVID. During the social crisis, a lot of families approached us, very interested in doing, moving to Queensland. And I believe that after COVID, this will return, and we'll have more of this. This is linked to desire of living in a more stable and social environment. Training, the COVID has pushed it will push the industry into more automation. Agribusiness, mining will go into more automated and remote operations. We saw it before, but this pandemic is accelerating that, and the need is there. So it will be important for training in these new technologies. There's some new study areas. As I mentioned, explore new untapped regions. Skilled workers for some new economic sectors that appear, for example, mining in Ecuador. Ecuador is not a mining market, and now pushing for the mining, they find themselves with a lack of, not a lack, but they don't have enough skilled workers for their mining operations. And English continues to be a growth area, as I mentioned before, the importance of English to do business. Next. Some challenges that I should point out. Basic English requirements for courses are often not met. So these nivellation or these pre-courses in English are necessary. Costs. Latin America is a very cost-sensitive market, and education is still expensive when compared with other competitors. The reduction of scholarship funding, as I mentioned, is another one, like Becas Chile, for example. In the importance of, visits and the requirement of coming here, do face-to-face, visit the universities, visit the agents, maintain that relationship. Time difference makes it also difficult for what it is online classes. And students still want that travel experience and cultural immersion. Sometimes they want to take a course, but it's not the same to do an online class than actually be in Australia, be immersed in the culture and experience the culture of a different country. That's a big part of going abroad to study. So with that, I'll pass the microphone and screen to my colleague here, Andres Gebauer, who will give a more detailed part on the different countries and what's the situation in different countries. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me all right? I hope so. I'd like to introduce myself. Like Alex said, I am the BDM for education here in the region. We're based in Santiago, Chile, although we cover all of the subcontinent from Mexico south. It is a huge continent. Nearly 600 million people live here. But traditionally, we've been covered only a few markets, mainly Brazil, Colombia, Peru, and Chile, especially for education. Now, as Alex said, we're focusing on adding Mexico to that market as well. So what I will do is I will try to focus on our 6 main countries and give you an idea, because like Alex said, we have very diverse markets, but since this webinar is focused on the problematics and the opportunities that this crisis has brought us, the pandemic, we will focus on the key issues that we can take advantage of. Although those diverse markets have many different things in common, many similarities are occurring during the pandemic. One of them, I would say, that is the low internet access that most people in the region have. As you can imagine, a vast region with the Amazons and the Andes and vast islands and difficult access in the south of Chile and Argentina make it really hard to have a good access. So that's one of the challenges we face when we try to deliver online. And it's really not that important when we're talking about international studies, because those people generally don't have access to international studies, but to continue with the regular studies here in the region. We're talking about school or vocational training or whatever. We're going on a very long lockdown in most of the countries. So unfortunately, the means to continue the education are not at the disposition of everyone here in the country. Most people don't have personal computers, or if they have one, it's for a family of 5 or 6 people. So you can imagine trying to share the computer with your 5 brothers and sisters. It's not easy. So that's one of the main challenges we're facing. And like Alex mentioned, it looks like we're aiming at looking at a huge financial crisis, recession, and huge unemployment. So it looks like it won't be an easy time in the near future, but all the experts are saying that we will have a strong comeback in 2021 and 2022, hopefully. So what I plan to do is now I will, like I said, give you a brief general overview and then focus on 6 main countries and go briefly to what I consider the challenges and possibilities that we have for each one of those countries. I've thrown a couple of statistics and numbers just to give you an idea of what we were before this pandemic hit us. And from then we'll see what we can do to recover where we were, because we were in a very good position, especially in some markets, but I'll show you that later. So what we have seen so far is that new creative and innovative models for recruitment have already evolved. We've seen some international workshops and webinars like this one, but strictly focused on recruitment. I've participated on a couple of them, and they're a very good tool. They're already happening, and as time goes by and we keep being locked down, the tools get better and better, and we reach more people. So that's one thing that's positive, and hopefully will continue to grow. And I think that this time, without actually traveling within the region or mostly anywhere, it is a perfect time to spend our efforts in trying to build new strategic partnerships with agents. I can obviously support any of you who would like to be in contact with a good, renowned agent in the region, and also to engage more actively with the universities here in the region. We also have a very good and strong network of universities in most of the countries. So of course it's our role, and I'd be happy to support any of you that would like to grow that network. And another key issue is that, like Alex mentioned before, the corporate are trying to transform the way they're working, and since social distance will be required, and many things will likely change in the future. So these corporates will need to do some updating to new technologies and new ways of working. And I think, and it's not that I think, I'm really sure, I'm certainly that there's big opportunities coming up there, and Queensland certainly has a lot to offer, especially since we have so many common things between our state and the region here. So like I said, I will briefly go into 6 countries or markets, and I'll speak of the most important things about them and the opportunities that I see coming. So I'll divide each one of these 3 countries in 3 areas: before, during, and after the COVID-19. So to give you an overview before I get into these, Argentina, although it is very particular because they have a very, very good public education system, which is free, even for foreigners. So people from other countries in the region go to study in the universities in Argentina, which are very good. They have also the highest English language proficiency. And so, but traditionally, because of that, not many people or students have gone outside or overseas to study university, undergraduate or postgraduate studies. But in the last years, we have seen a growth, important growth in the number of enrollments. Actually, last year, Argentina was the second highest growing country for higher ed all over the world, with 9% growth in enrollments. And like I said, the tendency is for them to go and study postgraduate studies, since they already have good universities and free for their undergraduate studies. They've traditionally chosen the US and Europe to go and study abroad. Actually, historically, the US absorbs like 75 or 80% of the postgraduate education market there. And the main competitors are the UK, Japan, and Spain. They have good scholarship programs, so that's mainly one of the best reasons why they choose to go there, because Argentine students often prioritize funding, though quality is also very important, but funding is fundamental. So Australia, in that sense, has a very good reputation, and the top fields of education are society, culture, and management, and commerce. So you can see these three different steps here. We had a very good scenario before COVID. During COVID, most students now are focusing on EdTech and health, like many other countries as well. But here, the supply we have is very limited. So many students are looking elsewhere, overseas, to try and study in those areas. What I've spoken to the agents and people that live in Argentina, they told me that after this is over, there will still be a lot of interest in going abroad. That will never go away, and it's something that eventually, and this is for something that's common for all our countries. In the meantime, I think that we're looking at not very good numbers, obviously, for this year and maybe next year. But hopefully 2 years from now, we will pick up from where we were and continue growing as we were. And Argentina is a perfect example of that. So I'll go briefly with this graphics that I prepared to show you how steadily we were growing in Argentina, and mainly, and you will see this in other markets as well. The highest number of students here are going to study English courses, short English courses, and then vocational. You'll see probably zero interest in going to study schools or shorter courses which don't give any award. Like, I don't know, maybe there's a mix between studying English and doing some small courses. But as you can see, and you will see this in most of our markets, we were steadily growing since 5 years in all the markets. Not really big numbers in Argentina, like I said, because of the public system and free of charge that they have. So then we move to Brazil. Probably most of you know that Brazil is like our top market by far here in the region. We had huge success, Australia overall, and Queensland in particular. Maybe because of the weather, the lifestyle, but Brazilians are crazy about Queensland. Last year, Brazilians overtook the Chinese as the #1 community living in the Gold Coast. So that's obviously due to the quality of our institutions, but also for the quality of life as well. Brazil is the biggest market outside after China and India. But that's like a tricky ranking, because you will see in the stats afterwards, they basically don't have any school students or non-award students. So both sources for those huge numbers are English students and vocational training. In fact, Brazil is the second largest source of vocational training students in Queensland, only after China. So that's really impressive and huge. Obviously, there's a huge also potential to grow, and we were focusing on that before the COVID hit us, on trying to enroll those students that are already in Queensland studying or English or some vocational training, to try to tempt them to stay longer and maybe enroll in undergraduate or hopefully postgraduate studies, so they can and stay there longer. As Alex said, we were very active in building relationships with research bodies, universities. We've signed many agreements. We've done workshops between Queensland researchers and Brazilian researchers. Many publications came out because of that, and many good agreements between universities. Probably most of you are familiar with Science Without Frontiers programs that used to be very popular in Australia, where many people, many young Brazilian students went to study or do some research in Australia or everywhere, anywhere, but that was canceled. And now they have a new program called PRINT, which is basically focused on research, postgraduate studies, and the idea is that universities have to have an agreement of research, joint research. So then the Brazilian state can sponsor them to travel abroad and do some research. So we were in a very good position until, I don't know, 3 months ago. And hopefully we will return on that, because that was the right thing to do in order to get those funds to fund the joint research, so Australian or Queensland researchers could also come to the region. And during COVID, of course, e-learning has been very big. It's no surprise. Education agents have been very active. They're very good and on social media. So they've been all the time still promoting Australia and Queensland. And they developed some very good models in especially YouTube, Facebook, and also Instagram. So that's one of the important things, and I will mention that again at the end of my presentation, where we have to put an emphasis is in engaging very actively with agents. So like in Argentina and mostly everywhere, the opportunities after the COVID virus are that people afterwards will still want to travel abroad, definitely. It will never go away. There will be some other difficulties, probably financial difficulties, but in the end, my impression that this will never cease to be interest of Brazilian students. And we've seen already new models of blended or online courses. Why I put an emphasis here in blended models is because I've had discussions with many colleagues and also agents in the region, and specifically in Brazil, is that they think, and I agree, that online education will never replace on face-to-face or traditional education. People are used more to having the real experience, and that's why I mean blended, because the online modules, in my opinion, they can act as a support to the face-to-face delivery model. So that's one thing I think we should think in looking at the future in a blended model more than an 100% online delivery. So, well, to my surprise, when I did the research, it turned out that Canada remained the preferred destination for Brazilians in 2019, followed by the States, UK, Ireland, and then Australia. That's because they're doing a huge campaign and throwing lots of money in promoting, especially Ireland. It's been very, very aggressive. And well, like in Argentina and mostly here all over the market. The top fields of the education are management, commerce, and society and culture. Sorry if I go too fast, but well, it's a big country. I mean, a big market. We have so many things to cover, so I'll try to be brief with all of this. As you can see, here's the same trend as everywhere. We were basically on the rise, having great success. In Brazil and Colombia, as you'll see, we have a bigger share than even some of the most traditional states like Victoria and New South Wales. So we're doing really well, and hopefully we'll pick up when this ends where we left. Also, of course, vocational training and English learning being the most looked after. So Chile, back to Chile, my home country, a small country, only 18 million people, but very, very active in studying overseas. I used to work at the Becas Chile, the scholarship program, before joining TIQ. So I know very well about this program, and like it says there, before the crisis hit the country and the world, they were focusing in new areas, mainly water management, sustainability, edtech. So they were really fostering their students to try and go study in those areas. Also, the corporate training was on demand because, as most of you probably know, Chile is a mining country, largest copper producer in the world, and you name it. But they need also, like other countries, skilled workers. So also they were training at the highest levels in corporations like BHP. They have a very active presence here. They were already looking for Australian and Queensland help in training their staff. So to my surprise, Chile is ranked number 9 for Queensland in English students, even though it's a small country, but it's still a very good share of students that come from our country. And talking about higher education, world rankings are very important here when a student makes a decision. In other countries such as Colombia and Brazil, the lifestyle of the quality of style is usually more important in their priorities, but here ranking and the quality of the program and the university is crucial. Also, because if you are applying to this scholarship program, it's mainly based on rankings. So if the university is not within the top 100 or top 50, it's really difficult for you to obtain a scholarship to go and study abroad. One of the challenges, like Alex mentioned, is that due to the crisis and the social unrest that we were suffering before, there's obviously not many resources, and the government is looking everywhere to cut funds and throw them to where the real needs are. So obviously, studying overseas and scholarship for students to go overseas is not a top priority. So what they did, unfortunately, is the program will still go on, but only for PhD students. Until now, they had 13 different scholarships that covered from vocational training to English training for teachers, to special scholarship for doctors and so on. But from this year, they will only fund PhD students. We don't know for how long that will be, but it's really bad news because obviously many people are interested and looking to go and study a master's degree abroad. That won't happen in the near future, unfortunately. But like I said, the new areas where I would suggest to do some emphasize, if you can, is in sustainability, like water treatment, huge, and digital technologies. Blended the same reasons I use for Colombia, and social media, being very active on social media. So like you see, the same tendency here, the same trend. Everything was growing. We had great success, and hopefully, well, 2020 for me is maybe a lost cause already, but 2021 hopefully will pick up. Colombia, as you know, is also a very, very important market for us. It's huge, even though it's not that big. It's 50 million people. It's not very rich, but they love to go and study to Australia, especially Queensland. They have very good programs of loans and scholarships. And we are very close with them. We build a very good relationship with Colfuturo, Colciencias, ICETEX. So that's why I think we've had great numbers in the recent calls. Last year was fantastic for us. Also this one, great numbers for PhDs and masters in Queensland. It is a key market, and it is the fourth top source for Queensland, behind China, India, and Brazil. And it's unbelievable, #1 for English training in the world in Queensland, and #4 in vet. So that's amazing. Like I said here, and like I say here, sectors are really undeveloped. That's why we were making a big effort, like in Brazil, to try and engage those students that are already going to Queensland to study English or vocational training to stay longer and hopefully enroll in university courses. So from the 100%, of course, of the students that go to Queensland, 55% go to study English courses, 39 vocational training, and only 5 go to higher education. So that's why where we were focused before the crisis hit us. Well, what can you do and what can we do during this crisis is, like I said, use this time in building new partnerships, universities and Colfuturo and Conciencias, although Conciencias will cease to exist soon, but ICETEX, they're already looking for new partners. So this time is good for reach out, and I can always help you to put you in contact with them. And showcase the capabilities that Queensland has in remote learning. Most people don't know our capabilities, and it will be a good time to show them. Of course, promoting digitally engagement as well. And in the future, I think that it will be really difficult for Colombian students to go and studying in Australia due to the costs of living and the financial crisis that will hit them. So any effort of doing some, giving some scholarships or additional benefits would be really well received. I remember that we signed a couple of years ago an agreement with Colfuturo where we gave them a 15% discount for a university, I won't name, but it was a huge success. So my advice would be to try and offer some benefits, especially since there were very hard times to come financially. And of course, be very active on social media. Colombians love social media, and especially, this is true for every country in the margin, but especially Colombia is an agent-driven market. Face-to-face contact and the involvement of the family is essential when planning overseas study. So it is a family decision to, if one of them chooses to go and study abroad. So if we obviously cannot talk to them face-to-face, they're being present on social media and active with the agents is crucial. So my advice will also be to reach out to them and be very active, sending them any news or updates you have about new courses, benefits, or whatever. as you can see, the same trend here growing. Unfortunately, like you can see that higher education is really, really low. So that was one of our goals for this year next, to make to recruit more students for university courses, but we'll have to postpone that for next year. And we move to Mexico. Mexico is particular because until now, we haven't really been, I mean, the Latin American office, we haven't been really present there. I've never been there. We've done nothing, actually. It used to be responsibility of the North American brand office based in the USA. But since this year, we actively took over that, and we had a very ambitious plan to go there with Study Brisbane and some of the members during March or April on the recruitment fairs, to be active, to engage with agents and so on. Unfortunately, that couldn't happen. And it's been growing steadily, but we think there's a huge potential to continue growing. Traditionally, Mexican students have chosen to go to study in the States or Canada for logical reasons, but now it's becoming more, I mean, harder for them to go there. So it's a good opportunity. Austrade and the embassy is developing a new Mexico action plan. Was supposed to be delivered this year, but it's been postponed for next year. And also another bad news, like in Chile, is that the government already before the crisis reduced the funds for the federal scholarship program. But in this case, it wasn't for financial reasons. It was merely because of the new government. It is very nationalist. So they try to engage more students in staying in Mexico rather than going overseas. The opportunities now that we've seen, and we had a couple of good ones before the crisis arrived, are on the state level rather than on the federal one. We had a good opportunity of the English teachers that wanted to go and study in Queensland to train. Well, of course, that got canceled or suspended. Hopefully we will regain in compensations in the near future. And obviously, since the reduction of the scholarship program, any scholarship, loan, bursary will be most unwelcome, because it would be very difficult for Mexicans to travel to Australia, because it is a country and a market that is not very well known. They have a very positive attitude towards Australia, but they perceive the country as distant, expensive, and they're unaware of the quality of our education. So that's a lot of room to grow there. And hopefully next March and April, we'll be able to go there, visit the market, and of course showcase Queensland as a top destination place for studying. And I'll be happy, of course, to promote any institution that would like me to do so. And finally, well, you can see the numbers here, pretty much the same, although in Mexico, we can see that higher education is a little higher in percentage than other countries. Peru is a large market that I'll cover today. A couple of facts. Peru has 48 MOUs between Australian and Peruvian universities, which is a huge number, but most of them are not really active. Some, I guess, they were signed and put on a drawer somewhere, so it really doesn't mean much now. So it's a good opportunity to strengthen those contacts and to actually do something with those MOUs that already have been signed. They are embarking on a vocational training new plan, which is based on the Australian qualifications framework. And that's obviously a very good opportunity for us to promote them, to help them and support them. And like in other countries, during COVID, what we have been trying to do is emphasize and showcase our capabilities in remote learning. In the future, what we see is that are many good opportunities in skills and training and certification for the mining and agriculture areas, either vocational or university degrees. And obviously, all universities are open to new engagement. If you need any contact, I'll be happy to help you with that. And lastly, well, you can see the same tendencies here. So I did this little graphic to just show you the importance that Colombia has. Is clearly punching above its weight by a lot. So the population is merely 10%, but they have 28% of the total of students going to Queensland. And Mexico, on the other hand, although it makes up for 26% of the population, only 3% of the enrollments. So that's food for thought. I think there's a huge potential and a lot of work to be done in Mexico, because we're basically looking at a gold mine. If we do things right, there's a big need for studying overseas, hopefully once this thing passes. And I'll be happy to represent all of you. So final thoughts and recommendations. The impression here is in the region is that obviously Australia has done a great job, and Queensland in particular, with fighting this virus, and also and especially helping and supporting their students, not only with kind words of support, but actively giving them counseling, food, helping them with their studies, and that's something that hasn't been unnoticed. So I've talked with agents and some students, and they really appreciate that. And Australia and Queensland are still on demand. I'd like to emphasize that people are really looking forward to going to study there once the new normality comes. And study Brisbane, Gold Coast, Cairns, all the study hubs have done a tremendous job. So what I see in the near future is online learning. Obviously, it's a big thing. Our biggest challenge is the time difference. Unfortunately, there's not much we can do to change that fact, but I would definitely recommend flexibility and innovation. One excellent example is what the University of Queensland has done with the SOL and their English training center, changing they made some minor changes, but they've been very significant. So they changed, for instance, the minimum enrollment from 5 to 3 weeks, and they can any student can start on any Monday. Before they had to start every 5 weeks. They changed the class times to 10 a.m. from Monday to Friday. So this time works either for Asian students, which is early in the morning for them, and evening here in LatAm. So it's really good. And they also had a minimum 20-hour course before, and now they've stretched this to 10-hour minimum. So Latin American students can enroll. So in my opinion, those are very simple steps you can do and be flexible to adapt to this new reality. Of course, we all know that University of Queensland is a huge institution, has many resources, and smaller institutions would find hard time adapting to that. But in that sense, I would suggest maybe looking at the possibility of building some kind of package or a consortia between an English training provider, vocational training, student accommodation, and build like a attractive package so we can promote, I don't know, 6 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever, fixed price. Even you could try and convince Qantas or an airline to throw the tickets in the package and present an attractive package, and we can promote it all over the media. That's just a wild, crazy idea, but it's something that I encourage you to do, to think out of the box and adapt, innovate, because that's the best way we can face this crisis. And basically, I think that's it. We don't have much time for questions and answers. The last things is we could also try to aim for self-funded students. They're a minority, the people that can go to study in Australia self-funded because of the costs, which are obviously very high for Latin America. But we can obviously do something about thinking about creating those packages, consortia, and maybe offering double degrees, co-tutels, something like that. I think there's many things we can work on. Unfortunately, due to the situation that Alex mentioned, we haven't even reached the peak of the crisis here. We're still in the middle of a pandemic, so it's very difficult to put a date on when we can start doing normal things again. But in the end, we're here for you. You can please contact us, reach out to us. Any doubt, any support you need, we'll be very happy to help. And that's it from me. I don't know if we have time for questions, answers, and
the first one I see here is: are there opportunities for the schooling sector?
Oh yes, they are. They are. As you could see in those graphics, it is an unexplored territory here. So not much has been done, but we've noticed an increase of interest in many markets, especially in Argentina, Uruguay, Brazil, and also here in Chile. New Zealand is taking the lead on that, especially in the first countries that I mentioned, because they were very clever and came up with these packages which mixed school with rugby. So many students who play rugby here from mainly English schools are looking to go to spend some time in a school overseas, practice and their English, and also learn to play rugby as well. So there is a huge potential for growth, and especially after this crisis, I think many families will think of sending their students overseas for at least for a period, semester or so on.
Okay. Another one, I can take this one, is what is Australia's reputation like to LatAm during pandemic compared to US, Canada, and UK? So I think Andres touched a little bit on this, and has been, the reception of the news from Australia, the way it was handled, the crisis, and the support that the students received. It was very good, very good. And then agents took note of that, and students, of course, families, etc. Compared with, well, I don't want to compare to US and Canada, but I know it was very good coming from Australia. We heard very, very good things. So yeah, that was excellent job doing the Australia did on that, not only containing the pandemic the way it was done, but the way they managed the students as well. I don't know if you want to answer another one, Andres.
Well, I could answer all of them, but I don't know if we have the time.
Maybe one more. This is, I think, is for you, since you went and visited Colombia. It says, are there untapped regions in Colombia and Brazil that TIQ have identified as potential regions to recruit self-funded students?
Yes, actually, that's a good one. I was surprised last year when the people from Col Futuro were so kind and generous to invite me to join them for their regional tour. When we visited some second-tier cities, they were not on the radar, and to my surprise, it was a huge interest in going to study overseas, and particular to Australia, and many questions from them. And apparently, in some of these cities, there were people that didn't have any problems with funding their children and going to study abroad for short term, even longer terms. I received a lot of inquiries regarding university courses. So yes, definitely. And I think so. I haven't been to many regions in Brazil, but I think it's the same. There are many rich people in different parts of the country, and due to this crisis, I think that interest will rise definitely. So yes, I'd say yes. And in our plans for next year, once the new normality comes, we plan on visiting more regional hubs and second-tier cities to promote Queensland as well.
Excellent. I think we're going to stop here. What do you think, Andres? Otherwise, it's going to keep going on.
Well,
all the questions.
Yes, we can answer them later when we send them the recording of the webinar.
Exactly. So I want to close with a big thanks to everyone who participated on the webinar. I know these are difficult times that we're going through and complicated, but you know, with difficulty comes opportunity as well. Just as Andres mentioned as well, you know, we're here to help you. We are here in market to help you, and we're just looking forward to hear from you.